Welcome to another episode of Beautiful, Bad and Bizarre. Today we're here at Golders Green Crematorium bringing flowers to remember and celebrate the life and visit the final resting place of the wonderful actor Bernard Bresslaw.
A distinctive birthmark, sir, in a rather unusual place.
Oh, well.
He's not called a Big Dick for nothing, sir.
Bernard Bresslaw. There are no flies on him.
Bernard Bresslaw was born on Sunday, February the 25th, 1934, weighing a substantial £10, 4 ounces. An early hint, perhaps, of the towering 6'7" stature he would attain as an adult. His arrival brought a burst of life to the bustling streets of Stepney. Raised by his hard-working parents, Maurice and Clara Davis Bresslaw, Bernard grew up in an environment shaped by their dedication and resilience. Maurice, a skilled tailor's cutter, and Clara, whose sewing talents contributed to the family income, instilled in Bernard the values of hard work and determination. Notably, Clara was 10 years older than her husband Maurice, adding an interesting element to the family dynamic. Bernard's roots ran deep in both Polish heritage and the Jewish faith, as both his paternal and maternal grandparents were Polish immigrants. Their family saga was woven with threads of joy and sorrow. In 1924, Maurice and Clara endured the heartbreaking loss of their firstborn son, Harry, who passed away just a few months after his birth. Despite this early tragedy, the family welcomed Arnold Sidney in 1925, followed by Stanley in 1929. Bernard, the youngest of the surviving siblings, was destined to carve his own unique path in the realm of entertainment. Despite the challenges of life in the East End of London, Bernard Breslaw's family embraced a happy and tight-knit existence. Their resilience and love for each other illuminated even the darkest corners of those difficult times in the 1930s. Growing up, Bernard developed a deep love for books and literature, particularly drawn to the works of Shakespeare. This passion was nurtured by his father Maurice, who shared a similar interest in books. On weekends, Maurice set up 2 bookstalls in the bustling East End, exposing young Bernard to a rich variety of literary treasures. It was during these formative years that Bernard's fascination with Shakespeare blossomed. Remarkably, at the tender age of just 5, he could already recite the Agincourt speech from Shakespeare's play Henry V, an early indication of his remarkable memory and talent for performance. With the onset of the Second World War, at the age of 7, Bernard, along with his brothers, was evacuated to Clifton Street in Swindon under the care of Mr. and Mrs. Findlay. He never forgot his wartime mum, and we'll come back to that later in the video. Back in the East End, Bernard attended the Cooper's Company's School in Bow, where he discovered his talent for acting. His interest in the craft was further ignited by visits to the Hackney Empire Theatre during this time. Bernard received encouragement from his English teacher, and even his headmaster acknowledged his natural talent for acting. He told Bernard's father, "Bernard's a born actor. It would be a pity to make him do anything else." During his school years, Bernard's talent for acting shone brightly, earning him one of only 2 London County Council awards, leading to a scholarship at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, more commonly known as RADA, where, at the age of 17, he was honoured with the Emil Littler Award for the most promising actor. Bernard approached his studies with enthusiasm during his 2 years at RADA, even branching out to take ballet classes. However, while he may not have excelled in ballet, his dedication and willingness to explore different forms of creative expression underscored his passion for the arts. His greatest disappointment came from his failure to join the Old Vic. Despite his love for Shakespeare, he auditioned but faced rejection. He attributed this setback to his appearance, particularly his height. On completing his studies in 1953, Bernard plunged headfirst into the vibrant world of rep theatre, venturing into a diverse array of venues from army camps to prisons and hospitals, playing the lead in The Hasty Heart. Bernard fearlessly embraced the challenges that came his way. Despite the daunting environments, he cherished these experiences as invaluable lessons that honed his skills and instilled the discipline necessary to captivate the often demanding all-male audiences. For Bernard, this early training served as a cornerstone for his future endeavours in the entertainment industry. Before long, Bernard Bresslaw was enlisted for his 2-year national service, and he served as a driver's clerk in the Royal Army Service Corps. After being discharged from the army and a stint in 4 West End productions, including a disaster in Bachelor's Honeymoon, which opened on a Thursday and was closed by the Saturday, he tackled many roles until he secured a part in the popular Educating Archie radio series. Bernard was also appearing in television shows by 1954 and was under contract with Hammer Film Productions, appearing in Men of Sherwood Forest and in 1955 in The Glass Cage, also known as The Glass Tomb, although uncredited in both. He made appearances on popular shows such as Joan and Leslie and The Max Bygrave Show. His career gained momentum when he landed a role in the Norman Wisdom film Up in the World, setting the stage for a breakthrough moment in the popular Granada television series The Army Game. His portrayal of the tall and exceptionally clueless Private Popplewell, fondly known as Popeye, stood out from the rest and not only marked a pivotal turning point for the career of Bernard Bresslaw, but also established him as one of Britain's earliest comic television stars. Bernard popularised his own catchphrase, "I only asked," which in 1958 would also become a title of a spin-off film. Bernard was signed by HMV to record several songs in character, which included the signature tune of The Army Game, performed alongside Alfie Bass, Michael Medwin and Leslie Fyson. The song peaked in the pop charts at number 5.
The trousers don't fit anywhere, and neither does the coat.
In 1958, he would also go on to have a top 10 hit with the comedy record Mad Passionate Love.
I was making mad, passionate love.
It was also in 1958 that Bernard worked alongside the wonderful Brenda de Banzi, Sid James, George Cole, and of course the fabulous Terry Thomas, making one of my all-time favourite films, Too Many Crooks. You can currently find the entire film, which was released in 1959, available on YouTube, and if you haven't seen it before, I highly recommend giving it a watch. It's an absolute comedy classic. You can find biographies featuring Brenda, Sid and George on this channel, and I'll include the links in the description of this video. 1958 was undoubtedly Bernard's year, as he graced the stage of the London Palladium alongside Bruce Forsyth and Charlie Drake in Sleeping Beauty. Utilising his fame from the Army Game, he played the character of Popeye, a private in the Tyrolean army. He often expressed that Sleeping Beauty was his most cherished experience. Could this sentiment be connected to the fact that it was during this show that he met a remarkably beautiful dancer who would later become Mrs. Bresslaw in 1959? Together, the couple would have 3 sons, James, Jonathan and Mark. The woman who captured Bernard's heart was Elizabeth Wright, affectionately known as Betty or Liz. It was Bernard's dear friend Max Bygraves who joyously announced the engagement of the couple to an audience of over 2,500 people at the London Palladium during the finale of Sleeping Beauty. Betty, filled with absolute delight, stepped forward to the floodlights and curtsied gracefully after the announcement. The couple took their vows at Caxton Hall in London on August the 8th, 1959. According to the bride's mother, as reported in a newspaper interview, they chose this venue because of the diverse religious backgrounds. The bride's mother was Protestant Her father was Catholic and Bernard was Jewish. However, the Weekly Dispatch newspaper in London mentioned on Sunday, August the 9th, that there would be a second private ceremony in a synagogue 6 months later. Unfortunately, I was unable to find any additional details about this event, so it's unclear whether it actually took place or not. The wedding boasted a guest list with numerous talented and high-profile celebrities, including film directors and producers, totalling around 400 attendees. However, among these notable guests, there were a couple of truly special ones indeed. Bernard's wartime mum and dad, Mr. and Mrs. Findlay, were also invited to the wedding, much to their delight and surprise. Mrs. Findlay fondly remembered Bernard as a sweet little boy, shy and endearing. She shared with the reporter her recollections of him during his childhood and told him, "We are so thrilled and surprised to have received the invitation. We saw Bernard in Brighton earlier this year and he mentioned it then. Of course, we thought he was only joking. The thing we most admire about Bernard and his family is that they are so unassuming, just ordinary people in fact." Also attending the wedding was a charming 4-year-old girl dressed in a lovely white frock. She sat among the guests with her mother, eagerly watching the ceremony. This sweet little girl, named Jenny Fox, happened to be the daughter of one of Bernard's fans. Her mother, Estelle from Stamford Hill, London, had written a heartfelt letter to Bernard asking if her daughter could have the honour of being a bridesmaid. Like many weddings, this one had its share of unexpected moments. Among them, Bernard's mother Clara experienced a little mishap. As she prepared to toss a handful of rose petals, she slipped and tumbled down the steps of Caxton Hall, landing against a photographer's bag. Luckily, she emerged unharmed thanks to the cushioning effect of the bag. But it was quite a tumble, 8 steps to be exact. Turning to her concerned son, she remarked, "It's these here Italian shoes with the pointed toes you bought, Bernard. But never mind me, get on with the wedding." Bernard's father said, "Don't worry about Clara, she'll be all right. The last wedding in the family I remember, she only had champagne, and when we rose to toast somebody, she slid right under the table, like the Queen Mary going down a slipway it was." The reception at the Dorchester Hotel in London had its fair share of excitement too. Among the esteemed guests were Bob Monkhouse, Stanley Baker, Eric Sykes, Bernie Winters and Tommy Cooper, just to name a few. In a comical moment during a speech, Tommy Cooper's microphone lead crashed onto the table, causing glasses of wine to go flying and a vase of flowers tipped over, spilling onto the bride. Luckily, she'd had the foresight to have a backup outfit prepared for such unexpected mishaps. The newlyweds began their honeymoon with a week of pre-contracted personal appearances. They embarked on a 1,500-mile tour of ABC theatres, where Bernard's latest film, The Ugly Duckling, was being screened. Despite the film's disappointing performance, capacity crowds warmly welcomed him and Betty. Afterwards, the couple flew to Rome to continue their honeymoon in privacy. However, their plans took a turn when, on the first day, Betty suffered a severe case of sunburn. It was so serious that the doctor had to be called, who advised Betty to sleep alone in a single bed for a week and cautioned Bernard to keep his distance from her. In 1959, Bernard would also win the Variety Club of Great Britain Award for Most Promising Newcomer. Bernard had always considered himself a serious actor and not a comedian, and while he saw the Army game as a positive watershed in his career, he struggled with the constant offers of similar roles. After deciding not to continue with the Army game, Bernard appeared in a sitcom, Meet the Champ, which only ran for 6 episodes. There were sketch shows that had short runs, including the Bernard Bresslaw TV show that only ran for 4 episodes. Bernard Breslaw's driving skills were not among his talents. In 1959 he was convicted of careless driving. Then in 1961 he faced another incident in Highgate, London, resulting in a £30 fine and 6 weeks driving ban for driving without due care and attention. Additionally, he was ordered to pay £6, 9 shillings and 8 in costs. He admitted to the offence at North Finchley and pleaded guilty for not yielding to a pedestrian crossing, resulting in a £5 fine. Unfortunately, he had struck a man walking on the crossing. By 1963, film and television offers were scarce for Bernard, prompting him to return to his first passion, the theatre. He traded comedy for Shakespeare, but soon found himself back in the comedic spotlight when in 1965 Bernard embarked on his journey to becoming an iconic figure in the Carry On movies, ultimately starring in 14 of them. Technically, he appeared in 15 as his legs made an uncredited cameo in Carry On Nurse in 1959. Interestingly, Terence Longdon, who played Ted York, had legs deemed too thin for a scene. As a solution, Bernard Breslaw's legs were used as substitutes, specifically in the scene where Joan Sims gives Longdon's character a bath. Bernard Breslaw's debut credited role in the Carry On series was in Carry On Cowboy, where he was cast as the Indian brave Little Heap. In the film, he played opposite Charles Hawtrey, who portrayed his father, Chief Big Heap. He would also take part in some of the Christmas Carry On shows, as well as Carry On stage performances. One in particular was Carry On London in 1973, appearing alongside all the regular cast, including Sid James and Barbara Windsor, who Bernard considered a good friend. At this time, Barbara and Sid were having their own personal carry-on, as it were, and Sid had some serious issues with jealousy, according to Barbara. In her book, All of Me, published in 2000, I'll pop the details in the description of this video, she tells a story of an incident when Bernard was giving her a lift home after the show. She said that he wasn't his usual cheery self and asked him if there was anything wrong. He told her yes, there was something wrong, and before they left, Sid had called Bernard into his dressing room and told him never to lay one finger on Barbara. Barbara Windsor was shocked and she asked Bernard, "When have you done?" And he replied, "Tonight, when I helped you off the catwalk, he told me never to touch you again." 3 years later, in 1976, Bernard, along with Jack Douglas, would be the only cast members to attend the funeral of Sid James, who had died of a heart attack while on tour with the production of The Mating Season at the Sunderland Empire Theatre. Picking a favourite among Bernard Breslaw's Carry On characters is quite a challenge for me, though I have a soft spot for his portrayal of Ernie Bragg in 1972's Carry On Matron.
Bernard Bresslaw, labouring under a strange misconception.
Oh, what's the matter?
Just shows you the power of suggestion.
What are you talking about?
Well, I could have sworn I felt it kicking just then.
However, he was also fantastic as Socket in Carry On Screaming.
Did I do wrong, miss?
Oh, Socket.
I'm terribly sorry, miss. You won't send me back there.
I should do, Socket. If only you weren't so necessary to me.
Bernard's own favourite carry-on was 1968's Carry On Up the Khyber. Between the releases of Carry On Camping in 1969 and Carry On Up the Jungle in 1970, Bernard Bresslaw took on numerous stage roles. He worked with the National Theatre in productions like Home and Beauty, succeeding Laurence Olivier in the role. Additionally, he showcased his talents with esteemed theatre companies such as the English Stage Company, the Royal Shakespeare Company, the Young Vic, and the Chichester Festival Theatre. By 1975, Bernard Bresslaw had left the Carry On series, and although he continued to work in television, he also made the switch once again back to serious drama with the New Shakespeare Company. In 1977, a new chapter began for Bernard, who added author to his list of accomplishments, self-publishing his debut work, Ode to the Dead Sea Scrolls, a short collection of poetry. Marking a significant milestone in his journey, this 12-page book, crafted with care and passion, was a labour of love, limited to a mere 60 copies. Each copy was meticulously hand-set and printed by Tony Savage at 78 Cambridge Street, Leicester. Bernard's decision to share this intimate creation exclusively with close friends and family highlighted his modesty and the personal nature of his literary endeavour. In the 1980s, Bernard faced the daunting task of moving house. But for this lifelong literature enthusiast, the real challenge lay in packing up his beloved library. Over the years, Bernard had built up an impressive collection of books, a testament to his unwavering passion for reading. As he began boxing them up, he was taken aback by the sheer volume. Astonishingly, he filled no less than 72 crates with his cherished volumes. This wasn't just any library, it was a shrine to a lifetime dedication to the written word. If you're a frequent viewer to the channel, you'll probably be familiar with my deep admiration and love for Diana Dors. So it's of notable significance to me that in May 1984, after she passed away, Bernard Bresslaw, a friend of Diana's, was among the mourners gathered at her funeral in Sunningdale, Ascot, paying his respects. By 1987, at the still young age of 53, Bernard was experiencing some health issues. He said in an interview, "I used to be 6'7", but I've come down to earth by an inch. It's the compacting of the vertebrae, my doctor said. On the other hand, my weight has gone up from 16 stone to 18 stone. I'm getting smaller, but heavier. There's something wrong there." Bernard faced a formidable challenge as he battled with deteriorating eyesight, eventually losing his vision entirely for a period lasting 5 months. Fortunately, in 1990, a ray of hope emerged with the advancements in technology available at Moorfields Eye Hospital. Through these groundbreaking techniques, Bernard found a glimmer of light in the darkness as specialists were able to restore his sight. This transformative moment not only brought back the gift of vision, but also opened up new possibilities and opportunities for Bernard to embrace life with renewed vigour and gratitude. Always looking to help people as much as he could, he was part of the Grand Order of Water Rats, a charity established in 1889 by London showbiz figures. The group is renowned for its dedication to aiding fellow entertainers during tough times, and in 1988 Bernard was honoured with the title of King Rat. Bernard Bresslaw was also a member of the Freemasons' Chelsea Lodge 3098. Freemasonry emphasises moral growth, charity and community service. As part of this fraternity, Bernard attended meetings, ceremonies and charity events. In 1992, Bernard was working with Barbara Windsor once more in Guys and Dolls. The format would be a traditional 1940s and 50s variety show, although the writers began sneaking in carry-on type sketches, which Barbara was not happy about, and she made her feelings known. When she arrived in Blackpool, she was furious to see that the show was being promoted as What a Carry-On in Blackpool. But her temper knew no bounds when she noticed that she didn't have top billing. Bernard did. Everyone involved tried to calm her down, but she was beyond furious. Barbara called her agent and told her she wanted her name at the top of the bill or she would not do the show. The newspapers would soon feature the headline, "Babs won't carry on." Later, she was told that Bernard's contract gave him top billing and her agent had not put top billing into her contract. She said she had to eat humble pie, but it put an atmosphere between her and Bernard. Barbara seemed to think he should have felt embarrassed that his agent had edged him ahead of her, though she said he didn't seem at all embarrassed. Although she goes on to say in her book, All of Me, that Bernard made a fuss over who should have the final call, the director suggested that they should go on together, but Bernard insisted on taking it alone. Barbara called What a Carry On the lowest point of her career. They had also been offered Carry On Columbus, but Bernard told Barbara, "It's not a good script, Bar. Dick was a good carry-on and I loved doing it. I'd rather remember that as my last carry-on film." In October 1992, Bernard's evening took a sudden turn for the worst amid the dazzle of a showbiz gathering. As the event peaked in excitement, Bernard's stamina gave way, leading to his collapse. He was swiftly whisked away on a stretcher, leaving onlookers in disbelief. His wife Betty gave an explanation of exhaustion to the press. On June the 11th, 1993, at Regent's Park Open Air Theatre, Bernard Bresslaw was getting ready to play Grumio, the comic servant, in the new Shakespeare Company's production of The Taming of the Shrew. An hour before the performance was due to start, while Bernard was in his dressing room preparing for his role and chatting with fellow actors before the performance, an unexpected incident unfolded. Bernard suddenly collapsed and fell to the ground, leaving those around him shocked and concerned. An ambulance was promptly called, and the staff at the open-air theatre administered first aid to Bernard. Despite their efforts, Bernard would tragically pass away from a heart attack later that evening, around 7:15 p.m. at London's University College Hospital. His wife arrived shortly before his passing, and Bernard would take his last breath in Betty's arms. Bernard Bresslaw was just 59 years old. Tragically, his diary entry from that same year conveyed a poignant sentiment. "What a joy to return to play at Regent's Park Open Air Theatre for another season. There is nowhere I would rather be." These words now echo with a profound sense of reflection and sadness, highlighting the depth of his passion for his craft and the cherished memories he held dear in that beloved venue. A freelance journalist who happened to be at the venue when Bernard Bresslaw suffered his heart attack began asking insensitive questions of the actors in an attempt to gather information about the incident. His lack of sensitivity angered a nearby fan who, incensed by the journalist's behaviour, reacted by punching him in the face. In the scuffle that followed, the journalist's phone was smashed. As far as I'm aware, the fan was never apprehended for his actions. Bernard's understudy had been readying himself to step in before the company had received the heartbreaking news of Bernard's passing. The sudden loss was a profound shock to everyone involved, and in light of the circumstances, the decision was made to cancel the performance for that evening. That 1 week in June 1993 brought a series of tragic losses to the world of British entertainment and sports. The day before Bernard Breslaw's death, the beloved comedian Les Dawson succumbed to a heart attack at the age of 62. Then, on the 15th of June, British racing driver James Hunt passed away in his sleep, also due to a heart attack, at the young age of 45. It was a week filled with sorrow as these cherished figures bid farewell to the world, leaving behind a legacy that touched the hearts of many. Here we are on this rainy day at Golders Green Crematorium. Please walk alongside me as we pay our respects and express our gratitude for the enduring legacy of Bernard Bresslaw, a true icon of British entertainment. Bernard's ashes were buried here on the 17th of June 1993. He was truly a magnificent soul whose larger-than-life presence brought joy and laughter to countless people the world over. In loving memory of Bernard Bresslaw, actor, died the 11th of June 1993, aged 59. Dearly beloved husband of Liz, father of James, Mark and Jonathan. You made our world so special. The love we shared is eternal. You live on in our hearts. Rest in peace.
Thank you so much for joining me in this rather soggy step back in time. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope you've enjoyed remembering the life of Bernard Bresslaw. And I look forward to you joining me in the next video.